The next motion is coming from Honorable Yusuf Ahmed Badaw. If Honorable Yusuf is around, please stand up and move your motion. Doctor, what is happening with our microphones? They are all having difficulty. Is it the card issue or what? Please, anyone who wants to contribute must ensure that he has his own card with him. We can't be wasting time waiting for you to. So the moment you make up your mind to contribute or to raise a motion, please endeavor and ensure that your card is readily available to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My highly respected colleagues, my name is Honorable Badaw Ahmed Yusuf, member representing Shannon Obey Federal Constituency. I'm from Kano State. Mr. Speaker, I stand to move the motion on urgent public important on fire outbreak at Ogoi Market of Shannon Obey Federal Constituency. I so move.
You didn't quote the relevant section, but it's okay. Since you are from Kano, you are you are under the protection of the leader from Kano, so we'll allow him to second the first leg for you. Honorable Aluma Daki.
Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, Ali Usanuma Daki is my name, and I represent the Ala Federal Constituency of Kano State. I stand to strongly second the motion that we do suspend the rebel rules so that the motion can be taken today. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. The second leg, any seconder? Honorable Mashi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, my dear respected colleagues. My name is Salus Yusuf Majigiri. I represent Mashidu Federal Constituency, Mr. Speaker. I'm from Katsina State. I rise to second the first leg of the second leg of the motion, as well as second, Mr. Speaker.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Badam, please proceed with your motion.
Once again, Honorable Speaker, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I remain Honorable Badaw Ahmed Yusuf, member representing Shannon Oge Federal Constituency and from Kano State. Mr. Speaker, I stand to move a motion on urgent public important on fire outbreak at Ogoi Shannon Federal Constituency of Kano State. The House note that on the 16th November 2023, at about 12 p.m., fire outbreak engulfed Ogoi main market, which led to the destruction of properties worth of millions. And businesses were also destroyed, badly affected. Aware that also that Ogoi main market had over 1 billion naira worth of goods and investment at it catered for Ogoi and other neighboring. Concern that good and a livelihood of affected traders in the market had been destroyed, while some have been rendered helpless, penniless, and homeless. Concern, although that the fire outbreak has affected victims negatively, Therefore, an urgent assistance is needed to help the victim return back to their normal business. Resolve. Urge that the House should urge National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, should assist the matter of urgent and assistance on this victim of outbreak, relief for the relief material to enable them to bounce back to their normal business. This that affected their life. I also move. Thank you.
Silence, please. Please, gentlemen.
Any seconder to this motion? Yes, Honorable Khadija.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is the Honorable Khadija Waziri Bukar Ibrahim. I represent Damaturu Termu of Bujibagulani Federal Constituency of Yobe State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by my colleague from Kano. Thank you very much.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to the Committee on Humanitarian Affairs and NEMA for further legislative actions. Honorable members, the business of the day is presentation of report of the Committee on Federal Capital Territory on a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Federal Capital Territory Administration Statutory Revenue Fund of the Federal Capital Territory Administration account the total sum of 61,553,778,260 naira, only of which the sum of 12,900,000,000 is for overhead costs, and the balance of 653,778,260 naira is for capital projects for the service of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, for the financial year ending on 31st December 2023, standing in the name of Honorable Aliyu Mukhtar Betera. Honorable members will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Tuesday, 28 November 2023. The report is ready for presentation. Honorable Betera is hereby invited to present the report.
Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am Mukhtar Betera Aliyu from Borno State. Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, that this House do receive report on Committee on Federal Capital Territory on a supplementary bill for an act to authorize the issue from Federal Capital Territory Administration Statutory Revenue Fund for FCT accounts the total sum of 61,553,778,260 naira only, for which the sum of 12,900,000 is for overhead costs, while the balance of 48,653,778 naira 260 is for capital projects for the service of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, for the financial year 31st December 2023, as referred. I so move.
Any seconder, please? You must be a very powerful member to second this supplementary. Anyone whose neck is very strong, eh? I think Honorable Kavilat is the only one capable here. I know her pause. Eh? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, respected colleagues, I rise for and on behalf of my people in Koshofe Federal Constituency as Kafilat Ogbara this morning to second the motion ably moved by my colleague. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Batera, please. Can you proceed? Honorable colleagues, the first order of the day is the commencement of debate on the general principles of a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 27 trillion,
Silence,
503 billion, 404 million, 73,861 naira only, of which 1 trillion, 376 million, 352 million, 359,690 naira only is for statutory transfers. 8 trillion, 490 billion, 960 million, 606,831 naira only is for debt service. 9 trillion, 918 billion, 248,229,600 naira only is for recurrent expenditure, while the sum of 7 trillion, 717 billion, 842 million, 877,740 naira only is for contribution to the Development Fund for Capital Expenditure for the year ending on 31st December 2024. Standing in the name of the House Leader. Honorable members will recall that the bill was read the first time on Wednesday, 29th November 2023. Today is first allotted day. I now invite the leader to move that the bill be now read for the second time.
Mr. Speaker, I am Professor Julius Ihovere, ON, DSSRS, representing the wonderful people of Owan Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Edo State, the heartbeat of the nation. I rise to move that a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation for the total sum of 27 trillion 533 and 3 billion 404 million 73,861 naira only, of which 1 trillion 376 billion 352 million 359,690 naira only is for statutory transfers, and 8 trillion 490 billion 960 million 660 and 6,831 naira
only is for debt service, and 9,248,229,600 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 7,842,877,740 naira only is for contribution to the Development Fund for Capital Expenditure for the year ending on 31st December 2024. I rise to move that this bill be read a second time, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Leader?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues. Kingsley Chinda, I represent Toby Abo Federal Constituency, Manikwere man from River State. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I rise to second the motion very ably moved by the House Leader that the proposed 2024 appropriation bill HB 1027 be read a second time. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Leader, can you lead the debate?
Mr. Speaker, I want to specially thank you for this opportunity to lead the debate on the budget proposals ably presented by Mr. President just yesterday. Mr. Speaker, in considering a budget for any nation or organization, you must consider a few principles. One, of course, is how much do you have, or what are you going to earn? The second is, what are you going to spend? The third is, how did your budget do in the previous year? The fourth is, what is different in this particular budget that you are presenting? And finally, is the global, domestic, and sub-national context in which your budget is supposed to function. I want to personally, and on behalf of my colleagues, commend Mr. President for the speech he delivered yesterday. As a former presidential speech writer myself, I want to say whoever crafted, the group that crafted that speech did Nigeria a lot of good. First, they captured the global context of the budget, which essentially reflected on the global crisis, efforts to recover from the COVID disruptions, the scaling up of industrialization in many places, unemployment that was a major problem. They talked about insecurity around the world. In Ukraine and in Gaza, we can talk of Sudan, the DRC, there are problems all over the world. And these have direct impact on the economic, political, and cultural relations within and between nations of the world. Having done that, Mr. Speaker, the speech, including the documents presented by the Minister for National Planning, looked at the domestic context of the budget, both in terms of what has happened and what we expect to happen. It is not unusual that the speech focused on insecurity, growing economic problems, inflation, which we know has gone up, those coming down, national inflation, interest rates in the banking sector, and a whole range of other contradictions that continue to make things difficult for the average person in Nigeria, including the removal of fuel subsidy. Then the budget drew our attention to the renewed hope agenda, so that we have a holistic understanding of where the president was coming from and where he intended to take Nigeria. And Mr. Speaker, he focused on fiscal challenges in the economy, the need to encourage private investment, the need to tackle insecurity, to promote agriculture, expand the economic space so that we can create jobs for our children. Special attention was given to education, which particularly made me very happy. And he talked about reforms and job creation. Having done that, Mr. Speaker, the budget decided to look at some strategic areas into which the 2024 budget will deploy resources. And if you look at information available, you will see that defense, security is number one. And I want to personally thank the President and his team, because I have said severally on this floor that I cannot even go to my constituency because of the dreaded Bini Auchi Road. There's no other way to get there because of insecurity issues. And I show every... We move motions and motions about insecurity. So that it is taking almost 12% of the budget is not an accident. He talked about the need to overhaul the entire security architecture. And I believe that once security is properly tackled in this country, among other things, there will be an increase in the production of goods and services. Many businesses today, they close by 6 p.m. because they are afraid that they will be raided. Many farmers do not go to their farms because of bandits and kidnappers and assassins. Many transporters have reduced their fleet to just safe areas, similarly because of insecurity. Even parents are withdrawing their children from certain schools and paying double the fees in where they consider to be safe. So I think the focus of this budget on security as a prime area is a very, very positive move for which we must give support to the budget. Mr. Speaker, the President and the budget focused on education. As a teacher, I am personally impressed by that, because the last house we approved on this floor, and the former president signed it, the National Commission for Secondary Education. Secondary education had been dangling between tertiary and basic, and nobody was taking responsibility. So you go across the country, you find dilapidated structures, ramshackle buildings, caving-in roofs, where our children are supposed to be learning. Now there's a commission for that, and it's going to be taken care of. UBEC has a statutory budget allotted to it, and I think that the emphasis on basic education in this budget is equally a positive one. I will leave the other sectors to my colleagues to handle as they comment. But let me just point out some of the other critical areas that the budget has focused on, which I believe will be useful for us, which we have not done in the past, which is the third or fourth part of my initial analysis. He talked about fiscal responsibility. He talked about reform of the public service and debottling the civil service, bottlenecking the civil service. We all know the contradictions there. We know the challenges there. And now there is a direct effort and initiative to debottleneck the civil service so it can perform maximally and contribute to economic growth and development. Mr. Speaker, this is a budget of renewed hope. And when the President talks about renewed hope, he didn't just pick it up today. Throughout the campaigns, he talked about it. Expanding the economic space, ensuring a favorable environment for private investment, partnering with the public sector to ensure that jobs are created and groups are services so we can deal with our foreign reserves and deal with our debt servicing. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, the budget gave foreign investors a direct signal when he committed to debt servicing and to managing our borrowing. And I think these two stands show very clearly the commitment of government to ensure that this budget serves the needs of the Nigerian people. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to exhaust everything so that my colleagues can have a lot to talk about, but when you read the details of the budget, issues of the girl child, the boy child, women, persons with disabilities, the unemployed, our teeming youth population that are moving into fintech, nanotechnology, and other areas are given proper attention. And I think this is what we've all been crying about in this house. All motions, all bills here start to make Nigeria better for our children, so that the future will be good. Any father that does not wish the children better than him is a useless father. And I think this budget is trying to ensure that those coming behind us will not cause us in our graves. And for that, I believe that this budget should be supported, it should be commended. We should mobilize all our intellectual, social, political, economic, and international capabilities to give this budget the push it requires so that it will perform. The area that talks about monitoring implementation is our job. We must make sure this happens, not just with our advocacy, but also with our legislative oversight. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to open this debate for conversation amongst us all. God bless you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Leader. Honorable Jaha.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Please approach the chair. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. I'm Jaha Babao, Chibok Dambuo Goza Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, let me start by adopting with full sense of responsibility the position and presentation of the Leader of the House on 2024 appropriation bill. Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize on 3 areas. One, the issue of capital allocation, contribution to development fund as far as the bill is concerned is not only appropriate, but is absolutely reasonable. You can see Nigeria is a developing economy. By providing substantial amount of money or a reasonable figure to the capital projects, this shows that government is serious to embark on series of developmental projects. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, can attest to the fact that particularly the issue of diversification of the economy. Mr. Speaker, Nigeria has been relying on a monolithic economy where we rely solely or to some extent substantially on oil to progress or to develop our nation. This time around, there is an intention in this bill to not only diversify in the area of agriculture, but also diversify in the area of mining and other relevant unexploited opportunities and resources in the country. Thirdly, as we are all aware of all evils, unemployment is the worst, because an idle mind is a devil's workshop. By diversifying the economy, definitely there is going to be an improvement in the employment of our population, which by extension is going to give people a sense of responsibility, a sense of belonging. People will be having something doing for a living. At the end of the period, they cannot be vulnerable for recruitment as Boko Haram members, for recruitment as bandits, for recruitment and other fields of criminality. So I have gone through the content of the presentation made by the Mr. President yesterday and was made to understand that this budget is trying to do everything possible to improve the employment level of this country. Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize on the issue of security. All the above mentioned, the beautiful clauses, the beautiful subjects, the beautiful allocations in the budget are only realistic if and only if we have absolute security. Because without security, No matter how much you spend in mining, you cannot go and do mining. You cannot attract foreign investors to come and do mining. No matter how much you spend in agriculture, if people cannot venture 2 kilometers away from their comfort zone, there is no way.
Leader, can you approach the chair? Leader, please.
There is no way you can achieve something in the field of agriculture. In other words, even the diversification is only realistic if and only if there is absolute security in the country. Another thing, Your Excellency, before I conclude, we are all aware for the past 4 years, there were budgetary provisions for all these developmental issues. There were releases 100% as promised by the President in the last 4 years. Where we have issue, I'm sorry to say, is with the members of the Parliament, which I am inclusive, without doing a proper oversight function to make sure that money appropriated is used for the purpose intended without any compromise, is equally an important thing we should bear at the back of our minds as members of the Parliament. In other words, we still have enough time to make history. We have enough time to change the narratives, because this is the first budget presented to members of National Assembly. And more than 280 members were not part of the last 4 years' narratives, which there were budgetary provisions, there were 100% releases, but there were minimal performance. This time around, the President has not only agreed but promised to fund the budget 100%. In other words, members have every reason to do their oversight function properly to make sure that monies appropriated in this budget are used for the purpose intended. Thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Jaha. Honorable Kumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my respected colleagues. Mr. Speaker, thank you for confirming me to be addressing myself as Malam, being the not only certificated...
Honorable Adodogwa, did you certify that Honorable Kumo should be called Malam henceforth? I thought you said you are going to...
Mr. Speaker, I pleaded with you
to do an investigative hearing to confirm his eligibility.
House, that it has to be confirmed at the Senate and subject to the concurrence of the House of Reps.
So please, Honorable Kumo, refrain from using that name title Malam. It has not been given to you yet.
Please be guided.
Just address yourself nakedly as Honorable Kumo.
Please be guided.
Take note.
I am guided, Mr. Speaker.
You must be guided, please. You should be guided.
I remain glorified Malam Usman Bello Kumo. Mr. Speaker, the budget critical role in steering our nation towards prosperity and stability cannot be overemphasized. Having listened to our leader yesterday, the President of the nation, we come to understand that he meant well and he's opted for positive business in putting this country back on track, being the black most populous nation in the world. For anybody who is privileged to peruse the documents or who is very privileged to listen carefully to the submissions of the President yesterday, will understand that this budget focuses on national security as a top priority. And the function of every responsible and responsive government is to ensure protection of lives and property. And Mr. President have dwelled on the issue of job creation, microeconomic stability, and deficit deductions. It only takes a very focused leadership and administration to look at budgetary provisions from subjective and objective points. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, the significant investment in infrastructure, education, healthcare, agriculture, social protection programs is in the right direction. Without taking much of our time, I believe the document laid before us yesterday is a God-fearing document. I urge all of us to kindly give this document the appropriate and the fastest approach in making this document a working document for the administration. I equally want to urge our colleagues, having resolved that we are going to partner with the executive arm of government, taking cognizance of the mood of the country, where incessant killings, decay in education, and the decay in microfinance sector. All of us here, please, I beg of us to kindly approve this document to enable the administration or the executive arm of government to start implementing the project, the document come January 2024.
The young shall grow. Where are you
Thank
going?
you for the privilege given
When
to
the
me
young ones have not contributed anything yet. Honorable
so
Chagaya
admit.
Bello, can you remain seated, please? We need to hear your voices first. Thank you, Honorable Kumo. Honorable Stanley? Later.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My distinguished colleagues, I remain Honorable Adedeji Stanley Olajide, member representing Ibadan Northwest Southwest Federal Constituency.
Let's try to be speaking 2 minutes only. So summarize whatever you want to say in 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very
so
much.
So that we can take as many members as possible.
Thank you for yielding the floor, Mr. Speaker. I've heard so many budget presentation in the past. The eloquent one that was presented yesterday by Mr. President is indeed commendable. There are so many areas you want to always identify with when you are listening to budget presentation. Micro and macroeconomics consideration. You also want to make sure that the GDP growth consideration is well in view. You also want to make sure, Mr. Speaker, that all areas of our economy is also considered. Remember, a few weeks ago, we passed the supplementary budget, which is for the defense. There cannot be any economy without proper security. The President came as a good architect to lay the foundation for what the security architecture needs to look like. And now we layered on top of that yesterday with a well-considered and well-robust budget, which I think is not only going to serve our nation right.
Honorable TJ Amejo, please pay attention, please.
Mr. Speaker, I believe without any reservation that this budget is going to move our nation forward. Remember, an architect had a vision. The vision is to build something elaborate, something that is going to be conducive for us to live in. The President did that yesterday. He has laid out what his vision will be. We now, as the civil engineers, that basically are going to make sure that these things are going to be built properly. Mr. Speaker, we just need to make sure we are guided to be sure that every part of this budget that was laid out yesterday we make sure that they are well implemented. Without any reservation, I believe this was and is a very good budget that is going to move our country to the next level. Thank you for yielding the floor, Mr. Speaker, and is it indeed a good day for Nigeria? Thank you, sir.
Honorable Gadi, after you, Honorable Sada will speak, then Honorable Patrick, Bashir, and then we'll take others later.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yusuf Adamu Gagdi is my name. I represent Panshin Kanke Kanam Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Plateau State. Mr. Speaker, it was indeed a budget of renewed hope, looking at the content and the context upon which Mr. President, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, spoke and addressed the people of Nigeria in this hallowed chamber yesterday. Unless you don't listen, and unless you have no privilege to go the four angles of this budget presentation, then you will not understand that Mr. President is a man that keeps to his words by articulating and packaging all his campaign promises to the people of Nigeria in the document presented to us yesterday. Mr. Speaker, the foundation for renewed hope was laid yesterday. But I want to amplify what my brother, good friend, said, Honorable Babao Jaha, and the last speaker, that we are the civil or whatever engineers that our work will either make or mar the commitment of Mr. President. If you look at the content of the budget of 27.5 trillion, and when you look at the debt service, which amounted to 9.9 trillion, Mr. Speaker, if you are privileged to engage in the last 4 years budget, you will know that there is a little deviation for the better from a way and manner upon which our budget is being prepared and presented. Mr. Speaker, this has shown the fact that we are now in the era that you cannot borrow money to fund personal expenditure. When you look at the segment of this budget and how it's been separated, you will definitely know that Mr. President is ready for business, he's ready to make our budget function, and he's ready to make sure that he has bettered the lot of the people of Nigeria. Particularly, as I said, 9.9 trillion being invested for servicing of debt. It means, therefore, that there is sense of belonging, and the future to come will be able to consolidate on this budget. Mr. Speaker, constitutionally, what is the role of government? The primary responsibility of government is protection of lives and properties of the citizenry. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution is very clear about that. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, is the having guaranteed the life and properties of the citizenry. The Constitution equally donated the responsibility of the welfare of the citizen on the government. And so, therefore, the pillar of this budget that centered on the security, addressing security challenges, have correlation with the key, with the central attraction of the function of government as embedded in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended. The budget have addressed issue of insecurity. Mr. Speaker, education is the bedrock of any meaningful development. This is a moment that we have seen a budget that seeks to practically address the problem bedeviling educational sector. Thereby, if that problem is sorted out, definitely you expect security is sorted out, you expect that there is going to be a meaningful development in the country. Sectorially, if you take it like the leader of this honorable house have put together, addressing this budget from one sector to another, the key hallmarks of it, Mr. Speaker, is security, is education, is health, etc., etc. To me, they are the three tripartite agencies
and sectorial issue that the budget have seek to address. With our commitment and contribution in oversighting the budget, we are going to get to the promised land. Mr. Speaker, our own is to provide robust oversight engagement. It is one thing to have a package of commitment as put together by Mr. President. It is another thing to support Mr. President actualize that commitment. Mr. Speaker, I want to call on our honorable colleagues to ensure that we have done what Nigerian people have asked us here to do by providing robust oversight to all the ministry, departments, and agencies of government in ensuring that they have supported Mr. President in delivering both dividends of democracy and good governance to the people of Nigeria. Until this is done, Mr. Speaker, no matter how beautiful the budget looks like, no matter the good intention of Mr. President, he is one person that superintends over the activities of this country. He coordinates the executive arm of government. So if proper oversight is not provided by this House and the Senate, do not hope that the beauty of the content of this budget will be satisfied. Do not hope that the bettering of the lots of the common man in Nigeria will be attended to. Do not hope that the expectation of Mr. President will be satisfied until we sit down and come out clean and clear to discharge our functions of providing oversight to those ministries and agencies of government. Finally, Mr. Speaker, while appreciating Mr. President for coming up with this document, I call on the people of Nigeria. We need to pray for leaders and pray for government. That will equally assist us in our spiritual cleansing of giving him the commitment, giving him the strength, giving him the protection to deliver on his campaign promises to the people of Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add value to this debate on the 2024 budget as proposed by Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Gadi. Honorable Ali Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleague. I remain Honorable Ali Isa Jesse, representing Balanga Plenary Federal Constituency. I am from Gombe State, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me start by commending...
Honorable Akala, you are in charge, you are the monitor there, please. Take control.
Mr. Speaker, let me start by commending our Right Honorable Speaker for a very wonderful speech yesterday. Your speech already captured most of the wishes and aspirations of Nigerians. You were straightforward and you went straight to what not only you, the House of Representatives and the Nigerians want. Mr. President submitted a proposal of more than 27 trillion. But one major thing that I captured in his speech is the President was clear by giving the House of Representatives or the National Assembly a free hand to operate. Because I recall when he clearly stated that he is expecting the 10 National Assembly to do thorough examination of the proposal and come out with only areas that are the wishes and aspirations of Nigerians. So we have the room and also to do a lot of things. So Mr. Speaker, just like my colleagues are making reference to most of the areas raised, the issues of security also need to be taken a very serious considerations. We also have to look at the issue of debt. The rising cases of debt, the managing it is also important. I observe what the President have captured in some of the areas. Our committees, chairmen and deputies are also expected to ensure the proposal reflect the fair sharing of projects across this country. I want to see a budget where Nigerians will feel they are well represented. Nigerians will feel every zone, every constituency is captured and reflected. So I expect the relevant committees to analyze and scrutinize the budget proposal and ensure fairness. Don't be intimidated with any minister or any head of agency. The president and speaker have spoken, and I've given you a marching order that you should scrutinize, examine, and ensure fairness in this proposal. Let me also use the opportunity to appeal to the ruling party. While making a proposal of 27 trillion, I appeal to them that they should always be realistic and ensure implementations of the budget. Let's see a situation whereby we'll be having, if not 100% implementation, let it be more than 70 to 80% implementation. And next time we should also be realistic in our proposal to ensure that we are doing what we can implement. Also, lastly, we also commend the Speaker and the House of Representatives for the first time for initiating a town hall for consultative, to allow public to come up and make presentations and suggestions for the budget. It's a welcome development, and I appeal that we should continue with that one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ali. Honorable Sada.
Mr. Speaker, my name is Sada Soli Jibia, representing Jibia Kaita Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Katsina State. Mr. Speaker, I paid an attention to about 5 or 6 key sectors that this budget will address, and I'm happy the President made it as a priority, particularly defense and security, education, health, infrastructure, social development, and poverty. I'm happy the President has made these as sectors that this budget has given a greater chunk of the allocation. However, I'm so happy for the first time, I'm hearing in a budget speech presented before the National Assembly that the President is mentioning collaboration with subnational. And that is the most undoing of our national budget, because there is no synchronization with the states. The states do not key in into national budget. That's why you find that year in, year out, the national budget is not impactful back down to the states, up to the communities, because the states do not key in into national budget. So for the first time, the President is saying they will collaborate with subnational so that they will address some of the structural fiscal policy of the budget. With this, I'm sure some of the states will adjust their budget to key in into the national budget. Where the federal government is allocating money, the states will withdraw their money. While the state is not allocating money, the federal government will channel the money there. With that synchronization, we are more likely to get value for money, like what the President said, that this budget will be geared towards getting value for money. I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm so happy for the President for the first time also, to say that they are going to block leakages. And that's the most tragic thing in our budget process. Leakages. Once we do not block leakages, forget about the implementation of the budget. Even if the budget is implemented 1,000%, so long as leakages are not blocked, forget about it. We will not achieve the desired result. We will not get value for money. Mr. Speaker, there is one fundamental thing the Parliament should do in this budget, and I have always advocated this. And today I will still advocate this to our committee chairman and to the members of the committees. Let them look at the issue of personnel cost. We have always run away from looking at it. We have always shy away from looking at the personnel cost. Let us scrutinize it. I know why I'm saying this. I know why I'm saying this. Because I know some MDAs go to return money on personnel costs at the end of the year. I know the ICPC used to summon agencies to come to audit them on the personnel costs, because you find that at the end of the year, you find that there is a remaining money for the personnel cost to explain why was it overbloated. So we must shine our eyes with respect to the personnel cost. For the executive, they need to clean up the IPPS. That's where the fraud is taking place. That's where the shenanigans on our personnel cost is taking place. So we must address that issue. Mr. Speaker, the issue of discipline. The issue of discipline in our MDAs is another factor that the Parliament should be able to check. So long as we want to get value for money, we must be disciplined in following these MDAs in the process. Mr. Speaker, we need to call the attention of the executive in the procurement process. The procurement process in this country is too cumbersome. Mr. Speaker, we need to pay attention on the Procurement Act. It's not a local procurement act. This is a foreign procurement act that we're implementing. It's too cumbersome, Mr. Speaker. It's very, very cumbersome, and it's because of the cumbersome nature of Procurement Act, that's why you find a lot of shortchanging the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Sada. Honorable Bashir.
Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable members, Bashir Zubair Usman is my name. I represent Bindungwari Giwa Federal Constituency of Kaduna State. Mr. Speaker, in as much as budget is concerned, I think this is our first duty as legislators, as members of the Honorable House. Budget is a budget not for the president as a person, either each and every one of us here. It is the budget of the people of Nigeria. We have to look at budget as way and manner that we are going to handle the situation, the position, and all aspects of life of the innocent citizen of this country. In as much as we work as a team with the executive as the way and manner the president requested. Even though the component and the breakdown of the budget is not here with us, but I believe this is a budget of hope. I believe this is a budget of Nigerians. But we don't have much time as a parliamentarians to scrutinize this budget and to look at each and every component of this budget and work out the modalities, the principles, and the way and manner that we are going to look at, or we are going to pass into it, to pass the budget into the real appropriation bill. But I would like to call on the members of the various committee that they should look into this budget carefully, scrutinize this budget with the short period of time that we have to make sure that they have given us what actual that the Nigerian needs to make sure that we push this budget in a good time. The budget, first of all, is issue of security. There is no nation in this, no nation or country can survive without security, without proper protection of life, of innocent citizens. We have to work to make sure that any amount of money going to be given to the security agencies must be, make sure that we followed each and every kobo that we have been approved for them, so that we can be able to have security in this country. Issue of NDS. I believe without oversight function, we cannot be able to control this MDS. We have to, or this House, the leadership of this House or United National Assembly will make sure we'll provide funds for oversight function for all committees to make sure that after this appropriation bill, after this money has been released to them, we have to go and follow them to see what they have done with this money and what they are doing with the money that we have given to them. Because most of the committees will see that, you will see that, Mr. Speaker, most of the committees, they don't have the funds to go around and make sure that they have been oversight the function of this NGS and the ministries. Mr. Speaker, I believe if this House can be able to stand and do what is right, I believe this budget will be able to save Nigeria and Nigerians at all. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and God bless us all.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Waeve.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Francis Ejirogene Waeve is my name, and I represent the entire people of Ughelli North, Ughelli South, and Udu. I am from Delta State. It's my pleasure to contribute to this debate on the 2024 budget was presented here in these hallowed chambers, the joint sitting of the National Assembly by Mr. President. Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, the speech of Mr. President is available on our platform, and we've all gone through it, and today it's our tradition to debate the merits, the general principles of the bill, so as to come up with ideas to look forward to when we start dealing with it as committees. The breakdown and the nitty-gritties will be available at the committee stage to each committee of the House that will be involved in the process. The important thing is that implementation, when it comes, has to be thorough. But we are very excited that the benchmarks that Mr. President has put in place for this budget are very realistic, very attainable, and they are such that will take this country to the promised land. I look at the price of crude oil that is fixed at 77.96 for a barrel. Judging by what has happened during the year, one will conclude that this value of 77.96 is attainable. Of course, we can even get to a point, Mr. Speaker, where we overshoot this value, and therefore we'll have more money and what they call excess crude oil income in the past that this country will get back there. Particularly when the production of crude oil is estimated at 1.78 barrels per day. I think it's very realistic when you look at the OPEC quota, when you look at the production during the year 2023, and you look at the improvements that have taken place in the matter of saving the country from oil theft, 1.78 barrels a day is achievable in 2024, and we commend Mr. President for that. And then you look at the exchange rate that the budget was predicated upon, $750 naira to the dollar. Mr. Speaker, at the moment it's higher than that, but we know that with the management that the government has put in place, the value is beginning to drop, the value of the dollar. And hopefully, by the time we get into 2024 properly, we should be able to achieve this figure. And so if you want to use that to judge the value of the budget itself, 27.5 trillion, you find that in dollar terms, the increase in the value of the budget itself is not quite a lot. That brings to bear the fact that Mr. President will be bringing his wealth of experience as former governor of Lagos to transform our country in this first budget that he has presented to the National Assembly. And very, very much of note is the fact that he has mentioned the private-public partnership as an integral part of budget delivery. So the private sector should get ready to be involved, to be engaged in ensuring that the budget 2024 is achieved. And the president also went forward to talk about an energy mix as we go into 2024. So it's not just going to be electricity from the regular sources, gas, hydro. We're now looking at alternative sources, solar and what have you. And I think this is the right direction that Mr. President is pointing the country to, particularly at a time when we are looking at climate change and the greener economy. And of note is the fact that government is looking at this at the budget level, beginning at the inception of January, such that every time throughout the year as the budget is being implemented, this energy mix is being looked into. I'm personally thrilled also by the fact that government also made provisions for privatization, up to 22 billion naira being expected as income from privatization to fund the budget. So we find that it's a very realistic proposal that Mr. President has presented before the National Assembly. I would urge our colleagues to support what Mr. President has presented to us as we do the second reading today. And then as we go into the committees, to go on to look at the nitty-gritties, look at each ministry, each department, each agency of government, scrutinize whatever has been presented there to ensure that our country is getting value for money and that wastages are eliminated. And like Mr. President emphasized yesterday, leakages are blocked, such that the 2024 budget indeed will be a budget of renewed hope, not only today, but at the end of the year when we analyze the budget. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable. I now recognize Honorable Bashir Usman Gorau for his contribution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Honorable Comrade Bashir Usman Gorau is my name, representing Goranyo Gada Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Sokoto State. Mr. Speaker, while giving my contribution in this 2024 appropriation bill, Mr. Speaker, I want to remind us as an economist that the good component of every budget appropriation is, of course, the concern on the infrastructure and the human capital development. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President has presented this bill with so much emphasis on the capital project and, of course, on the human capital development. Mr. Speaker, where I thought is very necessary to commend Mr. President is for his own readiness in the investment in the life of young people, where he reaffirmed his commitment that the young Nigerians are going to get it right in his administration. He made a commitment that the children that are running on the street are going to mobilize back to school for them to have a better future. Mr. Speaker, this is where I think we must commend Mr. President for thinking ahead for a better and prosperous Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, another point of concern is, of course, the reality aspect of this budget. Mr. Speaker, as an economist, not only to present the budget, but our concern, what are the realistic aspects of that budget? Mr. Speaker, the benchmark that Mr. President has presented this budget on is very realistic. The $750 for Naira, Mr. Speaker, going forward with the recapitalization process that is going to embark by the CBN we are thinking that is going to be realistic. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President presented benchmark of 1,780,000 barrels per day. Mr. Speaker, that also is very realistic. Mr. Speaker, we commend Mr. President for this realistic budget presentation. Thank you very much.
Honorable Patrick, Adams, you will speak after him as the leader.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the Honorable Speaker. My name is Dr. Patrick Umar. I represent the entire people of Ikore-Ekpene, Esienudim, Oborokara Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me this rare opportunity to lend my voice in support of the decision of Mr. President to present to these hallowed chambers such a relatively ambitious budget that rescues Nigeria from January 2024. Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I am very privileged to lend my voice in support of these budget estimates, specifically because it underscores the renewed hope of Mr. President and goes to attest the fact that His Excellency Mr. President means well for Nigeria. Again, Mr. Speaker, it blends perfectly with the legislative agenda of this Parliament, which includes strengthening good governance, improving national security, law reforms, economic growth and development, social sector reforms and development, inclusive and open parliament, influencing and directing public policy, climate change and environmental sustainability. Mr. Speaker, sir, the primary purpose of government is to secure lives and property. And we are at a time where all sectors of our economy needs to be jump-started. We are confident that with the presentation of the budget estimates for 2024, that Mr. President is ready to take our country, Nigeria, to the next level. The objective and directive principles of our Constitution has remained non-justiciable, but our budget, as presented by Mr. President, captures it all and convinces us as Nigerians that we have more work to do to complement the efforts of Mr. President. There is indeed a sacred obligation on all of us as members of Parliament in oversighting ministries, departments, and agencies of government to ensure that we scrutinize these officials of government to partner with the efforts of Mr. President so that Nigerians can enjoy the dividends of democracy. The take-home, Mr. Speaker, is to insist as parliamentarians that when we perform our activities as parliamentarians in our committees, in oversighting the ministries, departments, and agencies of government, we scrutinize them so they can complement the efforts of Mr. President. Your Excellency, it is not enough that we celebrate this budget. We also have our sacred obligation, which is to scrutinize the budget when it comes to committee stage. I join my colleagues in Parliament today to support this bill that is read for the second time and to assure my constituents back home that as a Parliament, we have the consciousness to work assiduously to ensure that there, far back at home, in Ikore-Ekpene, Esienudim, Oborokara, and indeed all Nigerians will celebrate the positive outcomes of the 2024 budget as presented by Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Honorable colleagues, you know this debate will continue up to tomorrow. We are going to have a special sitting purely to continue debating on this particular bill. So because of constraints of time, I will only recognize 2 people, after which we'll adjourn deliberation until tomorrow. So please Let me recognize our young ones and the future of this National Assembly, beginning from the chairman of the committee. After him, Shagaya will talk, and then Honorable Bello will talk, and then we adjourn for today. Okay? Thank you.
I have taken your legislative agenda. Campaign boss. Campaign.
It's not just, it's everything is up.
It's working.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for always recognizing the youths. We are glad for that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I remain Olamiju Wonlo Ayodeji Alawakala, representing Nigerians starting from Ogbomoso North, South, Orire Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Oyo State. Mr. Speaker, it is a great honor for me to stand here this day to support this bill brought by Mr. President, to support the renewed hope budget. Mr. Speaker, we were all here yesterday and we heard keenly what the President said to us yesterday. You will know that he's a man that listens. He's a listening president. You could see that most of his speech was surrounded around what the Nigerians have been saying for the past 6 months. You could see that he was listening keenly to what the people were saying, especially the young ones. Mr. Speaker, in the history of Nigeria, we're having the youth having access to students' loan, having education freely accessible to the young ones. Mr. Speaker, under your leadership, we had an ad hoc hearing of the students' loan, which went very well. Mr. Speaker, that's a milestone to the young ones. That shows that Mr. President is seeing tomorrow, knowing that the young ones are the future. Also, Mr. Speaker, we all know that for every country, for every economy to thrive, the small businesses must be attended to. We heard him yesterday speaking keenly about SMEs and small businesses, how they will thrive and how we will bring them up. Mr. Speaker, we know that our president is ready to move Nigeria to the next level. Mr. President, I want to urge us, Mr. Speaker, to urge us in these hollow chambers to please do all we can to support this bill, to do all we can to make sure that this bill passes, not just this reading, all through the committee, and we scrutinize it one and ensure that it is Nigerian-friendly and people-friendly. We all know that this budget is like a manual. It's like a manual for 2024, a manual that will direct the lives of all our constituents, a manual that will direct our own lives including. So I urge our colleagues to please, and please, let us pay pertinent attention to this bill so that it shall make a change, and the renewed hope that the President brought it for shall be utilized and shall be met. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Munir for the opportunity to speak. Thank you so much.
Seat, please. Thank you very much. Sergeant at Arms, please, one of you should come. Honorable Shagaya.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My very honorable colleagues, I remain Honorable Mukhtar Tolani Shagaya, and I represent Nigerians, starting from Ilorin West, Asa, Federal Constituency of Kwara State. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to lend my voice to this debate. Mr. Speaker, yesterday was the first time I experienced a budget presentation by a president. Mr. Speaker, I must say, yesterday I was extremely proud to be a Nigerian. Mr. Speaker, the president's bill covered areas concerning health,
security, economic stability, technology, education, out-of-school children, basic, secondary, and tertiary education. Mr. Speaker, truly what we witnessed yesterday was a budget of renewed hope. Hope for the women, hope for the children, hope for the men that make up the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, the monitoring and evaluation, the emphasis that was placed on that by Mr. President further explains the detail and the attention that is required by all of us, my honorable colleagues, in our various committees. For what we do will determine the future of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, I've never been more proud to be a part of anything than this 10th National Assembly. In fact, this is the highest honor of my entire existence. And having these colleagues, I'm sure that we will be able to do justice to the budget of 2024 for the betterment of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, I thank you so much for this opportunity to lend my voice to this debate.
Thank you, Honorable Shaga. Honorable Bello, Erufai.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Mohammed Bello El Rufai. I represent the good people of Kaduna North Federal Constituency. I'd like to start by apologizing for trying to walk out. Mr. Speaker, I was trying to rally your young parliamentarians to discuss pertinent issues and learn. I'm sorry, I needed to use the bathroom. I'm sincerely sorry about that. Mr. Speaker, I think everything that needs to be said has been said. Honorable Shagaya and I were writing notes, so he stole mine. I am also very proud to have witnessed what I witnessed yesterday. It's truly an honor, and with every chance, we thank the experienced members for giving us the path to this, and we are very grateful. And Mr. Speaker, yesterday you held us in highlight. I must tell you this, because your speech was excellent and honest. We have hope. There is renewed hope, but every member here knows the challenges in our constituency. People are going through a lot. So we really appreciate it as a collective that when it was your turn to give the vote of thanks, you reminded government stakeholders and all of us that are here that the challenge is high, but it is not insurmountable. The United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, insists that federal governments and states allocate 26% of their budget to education, because that is the foundation of everything. Honorable Jha said the more people we have in schools, the less bandits out there. It is a known process. So I hope when we have details of this budget, Mr. Speaker, and I hope we get it soon, considering the constraints of time, that this budget finally achieves the 26% threshold the UNESCO has been advocating for years. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I would like to cause some trouble here with your kind protection and permission. As we discuss the issues about revenues and the need for borrowing, the federal government has an excellent report on its table, the Oronsaye report. Mr. Speaker, if Nigeria wants to consolidate revenues, decrease wastage, and ensure efficiency, we must insist on the full implementation of that report, which recommended that certain agencies that are duplicitous should be merged together. I believe that will ensure more efficiency, the same way you have urged members of similar committees to work together to ensure that things go ahead. So please, Mr. Speaker, as we look at this budget, we must remember the Oronsaye report and its full implementation. I am proud to be Nigerian today, and I really hope with our oversight duties, we do what is right and make our citizens proud. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I will not walk out next time again. I will use that door sign. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Bello. We'll take Honorable Fullerton and then round up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I am Abubakar Hassan Fulata,
I represent Berniwa Krika Samaguri Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Jigawa State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I have 3 areas of concern with regards to budget 2024. First is the deficit and the external borrowing profile of the budget. My concern is that monies that ought to have been pulled back into the economy for its expandable production will now be utilized to service debt. This is an area of concern. My second area of concern, Mr. Speaker, is the lacuna that exists between the official exchange rate, which is fixed as 750, and the parallel market. The parallel market, the exchange rate is about 1,165. Whereas the official rate is 750. Some crooks can get access to official dollar and then go to the parallel market and exchange it. Can you imagine what someone can just get by just exchanging 1 million gotten from the official exchange rate and the parallel market? And this is capable of distorting completely. Monies can only be gotten through production. This one, someone getting access to billions without doing anything. So, Speaker, this is a serious area of concern. The third area of concern, Mr. Speaker, is the allocation for education. Yes, we are trying to meet up with the UN official figure, the 26% of national budget being dedicated to education. Mr. Speaker, we must declare an emergency on education because there is mass exodus of lecturers from universities and tertiary institutions. Condition of living is, condition of work is very, very poor. Their salary is very low. Unless we take this thing seriously and declare a state of emergency, Mr. Speaker, on education, we are going to face serious crisis. I want to intimate you that I'm coming up a motion to that effect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Fullerton, for your very tacit contribution. Honorable colleagues, this is how far we can go today on this important bill. Debate will continue tomorrow by the grace of God. So we'll suspend any further engagements and go to the next. Honorable colleagues, I invite the leader to move that we suspend other items on our other paper to specifically go to other 13th for further actions. Leader, please can you move?
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I rise to move that we suspend all the relevant rules so we can move all the other motions up to 13.
To consider only,
and go to
only other 13th of the other paper.
And resolve into committee of supply so we can make progress. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My dear colleagues, I rise to second the motion as very ably moved by the House Leader. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable colleagues, the 13th order of the day is consideration of report of the Committee on Federal Capital Territory on Committee of Federal on a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Federal Capital Territory Administration Statutory Revenue Fund of the Federal Capital Territory Administration account. The total sum of 1,553,778,260 naira only, of which the sum of 12,900 million only is for overhead costs, and the balance of 48,653,778,260 260 naira only is for capital projects for the service of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, for the financial year ending 31st December 2023. Honorable members will recall that the report was late on Thursday, 30th November 2023. Honorable Aliu Mukhtar Batera is hereby, Honorable Aliu Mukhtar Batera will move for the consideration of this report. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Mukhtar Batera Aliu. I am from Borno State. Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, that this House do consider the report of the Committee on Federal Capital Territory and a supplementary bill for an act to authorize the issue of Federal Capital Territory Administration Statutory Revenue Fund of the Federal Capital Territory Administration account for the total sum of 61,553,778 naira 260 kobo, only of which 12,900,000 is for overhead costs, while the balance of 48,653,778 naira 260 is for capital projects for the service of the Federal Capital Territory Abuja for the financial year 31st December 2023. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? I know the person that must second this motion. Honorable Maureen, can you second for us?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Gwacha Maureen Chinwe. I stand to second the motion as moved by Honorable Betara. Thank you. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Leader, can you move that the House resolve to the Committee of Supply?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the House to dissolve into Committee of Supply to consider the relevant appropriation bill. I so move.
Minority Leader, can you second, please?
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I stand to second the motion that the House do resolve into Committee of Supply. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. House resolved to the Committee of Supply. Honorable Batera, if you are ready, can you please give us a summary?
Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Mukhtar Batera Aliu from Borno State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, you may recall, in line with the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, a communication from the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces was read at the plenary on Tuesday, 28 November 2023, seeking the approval for a supplementary budget of FCT 2023 statutory appropriation for an act of the Federal Capital Territory Administration of the sum of 61,553,778 naira 259.93 kobo, with view of to accommodate additional inflows comprising receipts from Paris Club, payee tax liabilities, special intervention funds, palliatives, internal generated revenue, and infrastructural support fund. In accordance with Section 62, Section 80, 88, 89, and 299 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, the House Committee on FCT met with the Honorable Minister and relevant officials of the Federal Capital Territory and deliberated on the subject matter and resolve the modalities to handle the exercise. Recommendations down the total revenue, 61,553,778,260. The total recommended 61,553,778,260. Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, in considering the supplementary budget, time is in excess of the two committees. Both the Senate and the House of Representatives of the FCT committee work together to present a one version report to be considered by the two chambers. On behalf of the committees, I hereby present the recommendation for consideration. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable colleagues, you have heard from the chairman of the committee, so we go ahead and do the consideration clause by clause. This bill contains 5 clauses, and the first one is, in respect of the bill itself, the Director of Treasury of the Federal Capital Territory Administration shall, when authorized to do so by warrant signed by the Minister, Federal Capital Territory Administration, with responsibility to pay out of the Federal Capital Territory Administration Statutory Revenue Fund of the Federal Capital Territory Administration during the financial year 2023. The sum specified by the warrants not exceeding in the aggregate 61,583,778,260 naira only. Carried? Then the clause 2 is all amounts appropriated under this bill shall be made from the Federal Capital Territory Administration Statutory Revenue Fund only for the purposes specified in the schedule to the bill. Carried? 3, all revenues accruing to the Federal Capital Territory Administration, including the statutory revenue distribution, shall be paid into the Federal Capital Territory Administration's statutory revenue account, and no money shall be withdrawn from the account mentioned in clause 3, clause 1, above without appropriation by the National Assembly. Carried? Where due to revenue shortfall, amounts appropriated under this bill cannot be funded, the Minister of Federal Capital Territory shall seek from the National Assembly a waiver not to incur such expenditure. Carried? The bill may be cited as the Federal Capital Territory Supplementary Statutory Appropriation Bill 2023. Carried? We go to the recurrent non-debt expenditure. The total under this, under clause 1, subtotal is 2,200,000,000. Carried? Clause 2 of the non-recurrent FCT Department of Human Resources Management, the total subtotal is 3,300,000,000. Carried? 3, Department of Information and Communication, subtotal is 2,800,000,000. Carried? FCT Legal Secretariat, subtotal is 1 billion. Carried? Facilities Maintenance and Management Department, subtotal 1,600,000,000. Carried? Abuja Environmental Protection Board, subtotal 1,500,000,000. Carried? Satellite Towns Development Department, subtotal 500,000,000. Carried? General summary, total recurrent 12,000,000,000 900 million. Carried. We go to Part B, which is capital expenditure. The total capital expenditure as itemized engineering services FCDA 30,543,778,200. Carried. Public buildings FCDA 15,110,000,000. Carried. Bus rapid transit and transport regulations 3 billion. Carried. Total capital expenditure 48,653,778,260. Carried. Grand total for recurrent and capital expenditure combined 61,553,778,260 naira. Carried. Explanatory memorandum. Long title. Thank you. Leader, can you move?
Mr. Speaker, Julius Havere, DSSRS. I rise to move that the House do revert to plenary and for the chairman to give a report to the House. I so move.
Mr.
Any
Speaker,
seconder?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as moved by the House Leader. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. House has reverted back to the plenary. Thank you. Honorable colleagues, this is the report of the Committee of Supply. The House and Committee of Supply considered the report of the Committee on Federal Capital Territory on a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Capital Territory Administration Statutory Revenue Fund of the Federal Capital Territory Administration account the total sum of 61,553,778,260 naira only, of which the sum of 12,900,000,000 naira only is for overhead costs, while the balance of 48,653,778,260 naira only is for capital projects for the service of the Federal Capital Territory Abuja for the financial year ending on 31st December 2023, and accordingly approve clauses 1 to 5, the schedule part A and B, explanatory memorandum, and the long title of the bill. Leader, can you move that the House adopt the report of the committee?
Mr. Speaker, Julius Havere, I rise to move that the House do adopt the report presented by Mr. Speaker on the report of the Committee on Supply. I so move.
Leader, can you second?
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I rise to second the motion as moved by the House Leader. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Leader, can you move that the House adjourn to tomorrow? Okay, sorry, there are some announcements to be made. Honorable colleagues, there is an announcement coming from the Committee on Appropriation. The first one reads as follows, that the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriations announces a meeting of the Committee on Appropriation Bill 2024 scheduled as follows. Date, Friday, 1st December 2023. Venue, Conference Room 301, New Wing, House of Representatives, National Assembly Complex. Signed, Honorable Abubakar Kabir Bichi, Chairman. The second announcement is also coming from the Committee on Appropriation, and the announcement is targeted on members, chairmen of standing committees for briefing on appropriation bills. The details of the communication is as follows, that the House of Representatives Committee on Appropriation announces a meeting for chairmen of standing committees for briefing on appropriation bills 2024, scheduled as follows. Date, Saturday, 2nd December 2023. Venue, Conference Room 236, New Wing, House of Representatives, National Assembly Complex. Time, 11 a.m. Signed, Honorable Abubakar Kabir Bichi, Chairman of the committee. Okay. Leader, please can you move that we do the third reading of the bill for FCT?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the House do start reading. I move that the House do undertake the third reading of the budget for the FCT ably considered earlier by the Committee on Supply. I so move.
Leader.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I rise to support the motion that we do set aside our rules to consider the third reading of the appropriation bill as proposed by the FCT. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk, can you read the long title of the bill?
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members. A bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Federal Capital Territory Administration Statutory Revenue Fund of the Federal Capital Territory Administration account. The total sum of 61,563 naira, 61,553,778,260 naira only, of which the sum of 12,900,000,000 naira only is for overhead costs, while the balance of 48,653,778,260 naira only is for capital projects for the service of the Federal Capital Territory Abuja for the financial year ending on 31st December 2023. Third reading.
Bill read for the third time and passed. Leader, can you move that the House adjourn to tomorrow, 11 a.m.?
Mr. Speaker, Professor Julius Sihoville. Mr. Speaker, kindly allow me to announce that a copy...
I've just been advised because tomorrow is Friday, yes. Maybe we can sit earlier. Let's make it 10 a.m. Please.
But to also note, Mr. Speaker, that a copy of the breakdown of the budget is on our platform, and members should access it so they will have more information about the sectoral breakdown. I put it there myself, so I know it is there.
Please, members, take note that copies of the budgets have been posted to our platforms. Before you get the hard copies, you can avail yourself on that and go through so that you can be able to ask objective questions tomorrow. and contribute also objectively tomorrow. Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do adjourn to tomorrow, Friday, 10 a.m. to continue with the debate on the budget amongst other matters. I so move.
Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to second the motion that the House do take a special adjournment to tomorrow, 10 a.m. to continue the debate on the budget. I so second.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Please remain until tomorrow. We'll come and meet you.